All right. Hey, Zach, what's happening?
Hey, John, how you doing today?
Pretty good. Welcome to the webinar. You ready to do this?
Yeah, excited to be here, excited to share some knowledge.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody that's watching. We put together this program, Manager's Guide to Travel Soccer. Zach, what version is this? We're up to what, three?
This is three. This is version 3.0,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a total revamp, in my opinion. The first version kind of only focused on the tournament weekend and what the manager should be thinking about. The second version was just a kind of a revamped version of that, better links, more up-to-date information, and whatnot, just to kind of get updated with the times. And that was back in 2018. So now we've completely just dug into the manager's life in 3.0 here.
Yeah. Cool. Well, um, let's just do a quick round of introductions, just so people can get to know who we are. My name's John Cross. I've been with Snap Soccer for a little over a year now, and but in a previous lifetime, I actually was a manager for my son's travel soccer team. Started off in rec league when he was about 3.5, coaching, managing. I used to play when I was a kid, and sort of when he hit that about 7, 8 year old range, we transitioned into travel soccer and never looked back. So,
Yeah, been with the company since 2012. I'm the ops manager at Snap Soccer, and really my hands are just all in, every one of the events we run. Yeah.
if you had to put a number on a wild guess, how many tournaments do you think you've tournament directed?
Wow, that's an awesome question. I
Are we talking hundreds? Or are we talking?
I'm thinking I'm less than 100. I'm thinking probably sole directing. I'm between 60 and 80.
You still look so young.
Thanks. You can't see the gray through the webcam, but it's coming in fierce. So
In today's presentation, really we're going to be going over just an overview of the manager's guide. With that, what is a team manager first and foremost. Scheduling was kind of the next big one. Finding and registering for tournaments, always a biggie, especially for new managers. They're not sure where to find them on the web. So we'll kind of cover through some of that.
absolutely.
The tournament weekend, that's sort of our sweet spot at Snap Soccer. Travel planning, as the manager, you're kind of like the leader of the band, and you want to get into hotel planning and places to eat for group meals and things like that. We'll kind of talk more about that and how to delegate. And
Big
then
time.
what happens at the end of an event, and then we could also put like slash season, like what happens at the end of your season. So how do you kind of wrap it up and get ready for the next one? I think that about covers it, right, Zach?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so first, a word about Snap.
Snap Soccer was created by a man named John Guidros and his wife Chastity in 2010. It was created initially to run a few events kind of on the side. Since then, that was 2010, he noticed the need, and it's been growing every year since. To an apparel business, referee assigning, a podcast, a blog, the list goes on. So it started small and it's grown to where it is today.
Aside from that, I know Zach introduced himself, director of operations. So when you're looking at this screen, you see all those awesome looking logos on there. I'm the sort of the director of design, and so I do the look and feel of all the branding for the tournaments. I help out with translating those into t-shirt designs for Parker, who runs that, and we offer these kind of services to all the clubs. So if anyone's interested, just a short plug there.
Yeah.
Do that for you too. So,
Yeah. The logos do look great. Definitely elevated the brand for sure. Just to kind of before we get kicked off here, going into the content, one thing you'll probably hear John and I harp on quite a bit is that, and the guide also, brings this up multiple times. Every club is different. Your club may be different than the other club in town. Your team may operate a little different than another team at the club. So truly, out of everything you get here, just at a minimum, let these be questions you should be asking yourself. Questions you should ask your club if you don't know the standard operating procedure already.
Yeah. So the underlying theme, all clubs are different. So
Yep,
right in sort of kind of first chapter, what is a team manager? This couldn't be any more truer when it comes to every club is different. So um, I thought it was important to kind of start off talking about volunteer versus compensation.
yep,
Um, you know, I think it's fair to say up front that most clubs, the manager is a volunteer. You're
absolutely.
especially when you're like kind of a new manager, or when you're coming in that U8, U9, however early your area starts. You have those tryouts, and the next thing you know, you're kind of getting tapped on the shoulder for, hey, can you manage this team? And before you say yes, it's just important to kind of think about that. Like, you are a volunteer. You're not going to be a W-2 employee or W-4, anything like that. However, you might be able to negotiate your way into getting some form of almost like a barter, where the club might cover, say, your uniform, or pick up some hotel rooms during your travel, or they might even cover your monthly dues or things like that. So in general, I would say the longer you're a manager, the more you can show your worth, the better those kind of things might come into play. Because if you're a volunteer, great. We applaud you for what you do, but it's also okay to ask for things like that. The answer might be no, or the answer might be, well, first year maybe we can offer this. But if you turn out to be like that super volunteer, I call them, where you just take it and run with it and can manage your team and help out other people, there's value in that. So there's no harm in asking.
Absolutely. Yeah. It is yeah, definitely something to note that and John, you said this, but rarely have I ever seen it in the nearly 10 years we've been doing this, that some managers actually on a compensation stipend or something like that. Like you said, you're not going to be an employee of the club. At a maximum, they may discount your player dues, like John, you said, the uniform and things like that. So never expect an actual paycheck, but it's not a bad idea to ask about reduced dues.
Yeah.
It is a lot of work. It's priceless. It really is.
And I would say, if anyone watching this on YouTube or whatever has any input on that, please add that to the comments. I'm interested to
Yeah,
hear what sort of compensation, if any, people are getting, just so you can pass that on to your fellow managers.
for sure.
I'd say the next biggest thing a manager is a communications leader. They pass on that flow of information coming in, information going out, whether it's parents, my player's sick, and it's telling the coach that, or it's working with the tournament that you're signed up, and getting communications from, like, say, Zack, if a schedule change or a field change. So we don't, as tournament directors, we don't send that out to everybody. We send it out to maybe two people, the coach and the manager. So how do you communicate? That's sort of comes with experience. In the guide, we talk about a number of apps. Um, you can just do straight up text groups, emails, things like that. But I don't know. In the guide, what we list about two or three decent ones.
Yeah. A few of the easy ones with kind of low barrier to entries are obviously your WhatsApp and your GroupMe. And just to kind of go on a little tangent here, the reason to prefer those to just your text message groups is, we either have the Android or your friend has the iPhone, and you've seen it before. It on somebody's phone, you're all in a group message, it goes into a different group, etc. You got the one person in there with the green bubble compared to the blue bubbles. It's just easier to put everybody in an app like WhatsApp or GroupMe. The pinnacle application for us, the apex rather, is Team Snap. It's fantastic, and the guide goes into that pretty deep. There is a freemium version, but there's also a very inexpensive entry level version that we recommend, and we really do think it's worth it.
Yeah, cool. I recommend as the team manager early, like the first week or two of practice, you get everyone together and see if there's a consensus for how people check their communication best. But if like three people are like, oh, I don't read my email, and two other people are, I only like to do text, then you just need to like kind of step up as the manager and say, well, we're going to be using this app. You need to get it. Just
Yeah.
force the issue. You can't not get this information, and that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And and we'll move on after this, but I really do think it's a no-brainer. While you should have, call it a Google group for your team or whatever, if you use Outlook, Microsoft, you should definitely have one of those set up, but you also need to have some sort of form of communication outside of email, something that's a bit easier for you to just jump on a tournament weekend and say, hey, game switch from field 2 to 13A, something quick, something easy that everybody's going to have on their phone. Some people are fortunate enough to not have their email on their phone, so you might be missing those people. So we'll end it there, but
Okay.
it's our 2 cents.
Yeah, all good stuff, and it's all in the guide.
Yep.
So the next big thing I think about team manager that we put in here was understanding costs, and then from that sort of translating into your team costs, and then within that sort of putting together a budget, much like putting together a schedule, which we'll go over in sort of the next section. But if you as the manager know sort of that sort of system of how all the money flows through in the club and now the clubs, things like that, you can point parents in the right direction when it comes to questions about that. Typically, understanding costs, you sign up, you're going to pay for uniform, registration fee, and then you pay your coach for training. That usually goes to all that stuff usually goes to the club, and they take care of whatever it is they need to do with that. But then when it comes to your team, and you're going to be traveling to tournaments, and so you'll need to figure out how many tournaments during a specific season, so like a 3 to 4 month window. You might go to a few tournaments or league dates or things like that the club is going to require your team to go to. You will know about that up front through your coach. You should. But then outside of that, say you're a hot shot team and you're going to do those few things that the club wants you to do, but then, hey, we want to travel outside this area, or we want to go to more tournaments within our area. All that costs money. So you're going to have to figure it out, or figure up a total on that, make a plan, and then divide it by player. And that's usually kind of like what each season's cost is for each player.
Just to kind of end out the budgeting aspect of it, over budget always.
Yes.
It is never a bad thing to just throw an extra $10 on each player. Hopefully the goal is to have a little money in the account at the end of the season. You can grab your coach, an end of the season gift, maybe a team function. Hey, maybe they'll vote for the manager to get a massage or something of that sort, right? Maybe you can have some influence there, right? Who knows?
Sort of the reason behind the pro tip I like to say of adding a little extra money is because inevitably there's going to be a little bit of hidden cost here and there, whether it's credit card processing fees or online check-in.
Exactly.
Things that the cost of a tournament doesn't really include whenever you sign up for it.
Exactly. Yeah. And most credit card fees alone, that we see are between 2% and 4%. So I budget for 4%.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Moving on here. Next big thing you are is sort of the team documentarian, librarian, whatever you want to call it. You're the person that has to make sure that when they check in a team, they have all the appropriate paperwork. So
yes,
the big three are your player cards, which will get issued by the club, usually what they call as a club registrar.
So make good friends with the registrar.
Yes, you definitely need to know that.
Yeah.
So player cards, official roster, and medical waivers. So
Yep.
if the player gets injured and their guardian or parent isn't there, how do you know how to deal with that? Who do you contact?
Registration and team check-in.
Well, pick it up there,
I'll
bro.
just yeah, I'll just harp on it really quickly. Basically, what is a team manager? You register for events most of the time. It may happen from a higher club level. They may register all of their teams for specific events, but
Mm-hmm.
more often than not, you are going to be the person in charge of registering your individual team. But most importantly, register early.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you will be checking in your team. And John mentioned online check-in and budgeting for that. We highly recommend online check-in. It alleviates you of having to be at the fields any earlier time, right? In most instances, is going to be Friday evening. Sometimes it's Saturday morning from 7:30 to 8:30. Who knows? But if you do online check-in, you don't have to worry about any of that.
And then lastly, put on here kind of like know your limitations. We sort of talked in the beginning, like a volunteer versus someone that might be getting paid. It's good to remember your limitations. Like I am a volunteer. Uh, if you're one of the super volunteers and think you can do it all, great. But it's okay to say no to some things. All right, creating schedules. So I don't know, Zach, you're the schedule master when it comes
Yeah,
to tournaments. So you want to start us off with
yeah, I'll jump on this one. So schedules, that's the fun part. And most of the time this isn't going to be, you alone doing this. So I'm going to highlight, two of these really quick, being practices and leagues. Practices will be done from a club level. In most instances, of course, unless you're a very small club and you kind of get full reign on the fields you have available to your club. In most instances, your club at a minimum is going to have 10 to 15 teams. That practice time is valuable, and they orchestrate that schedule early on, and they'll let you know when your times are. So, in some instances, you may kind of be tasked with communicating additional training sessions, call it maybe a Sunday morning session, or a late Thursday if you have a big event that weekend. But rely on your coach to feed you that information. Leagues are fantastic. Again, that's going to be done on a club level. Not very often are you going to just as a one-off team join a league. It happens. It definitely happens. But you're going to want to contact your club on that and get guidance from them. I'd even say asking approval from them to put in an application is something that I would highly recommend. Now local friendlies. So what are friendlies? Just what they sound like. They're a fun quote unquote game between you and hopefully another local team in the area. Low pressure, not tournament related, just a game to practice shape, practice form, and just simply get games.
But yeah, to tack on to the friendlies and the scrimmages, as a manager, when you travel around and you go to the tournaments, friendlies aren't always local. If you can find a good team that you had a great match against, I mean, it was a close game, and you're still talking to each other at the end of it, go over and meet that coach, introduce yourself, find their manager, swap phone numbers, and say, we love this game. Can we get a game with you guys again? It doesn't have to be in a tournament. We'll put
Yep.
together, we'll invite them to your fields, and then say we'll do another one at your fields next time. But it's a great way to get those extra quality games that you might go to a tournament and get two okay games, and then you finally get that one good game. Find that team, network with them, get more games with that team. That's the only way your team's going to get better.
Yeah. And just to say, the only thing you really got to worry about with friendlies is field space, which hopefully is going to be supplied by your club or their club, and getting that field lined. You'll have to work with the club, and then it's referees. Once you have the team, the fields, the referees, you're golden. Contact your club about referees. A lot of clubs have club assigners with a good Rolodex of local referees, and you and the other team can split the ref fees. Or you, being the host team, may just want to, cough up all the money for the refs since the other team's traveling in. So, the last aspect of creating schedules is tournaments, and we saved this for last because this probably constricts your schedule. Leagues probably constrict your schedule more than anything, but tournaments being second, obviously, because they're the only thing that are just kind of in there, whereas everything else is kind of flexible. Um, get your tournament schedule done early. John said it previously that in some instances your club is going to hand you a list and say, "Hey, these are the tournaments you need to attend this year," or they may hand you a list of 8 tournaments and say, "Hey, pick 3 tournaments from here."
So just sort of stepping back to the beginning of this on creating schedules, in like 30 seconds, if you're the manager, you're going to have tryouts and then you're going to have the first week of practice. At that practice, you're going to know what all the practice dates and times are. So put that on your schedule. Everyone know Tuesday, Thursdays, 5 to 6, 5 to 7. Next up, I would say knowing that if you're gonna be in a league or not, So if so, they should probably have those 4 or 5, who knows how many dozen league dates in a season. Get that on your schedule. Friendlies are going to come throughout the season. You just have to have the flex to say, hey, work that out. And then lastly, the tournaments. Again, like Zach said, if the club says that we need your team at these 3 tournaments, put that on your schedule. Find where the holes are. Talk with your coach. Make sure in those holes he has availability or she has availability, and then go searching the sites that offer tournaments. We talk about that, I think, in the next one. But where to find them: Snap Soccer, Sync Sports, Got Soccer. Those are kind of us, and then the other 2.
Yeah.
But to finish up that last section like that, and that's the last part of finishing out your schedule for a season. Filling in those holes with tournaments that are outside of everything else that you're doing. So.
No doubt, man. Well, this was a great segue into the next section. Yeah, so we'll just keep chugging along here. John, you mentioned it. Those 3 websites you see up top are probably the preferred. Obviously, Snap Soccer, right? We run quality events. I hope you choose to attend some. Sync Sports is great. So is Got Soccer. They both allow to kind of filter the searches based on state, based on event type. They're great resources. Furthermore, they are also the registration system. So you create accounts within the system, you register right there. All of your communication is going to be sent through those systems. Those are Sync Sports and Got Soccer are definitely the largest, probably tournament providers, you could call them, in soccer.
For tournaments in the Southeast, we can point you in the right direction. But Sync and Got Soccer, you're going to be able to, pull up a search box, and like Zach said, if you're in the Northeast or West Coast or whatever, you can find all the events around in there. And if not, ask your club director, ask your coach. If it's a seasoned coach, they'll know where to go to find good tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want, I'll let you go ahead and take that second bullet there too.
Yeah. So if you're finding the right event is also about going to an event that is right in the sweet spot of your team's strength, or how skilled are they, how much experience do they have. If your team is a new team and they're not having a lot of success in the tournaments of games, consider maybe getting some, you have to talk with your coach about this, but you might get in lower divisions in tournaments. You might not go to larger events in bigger cities, if that's possible. You might live in a huge city and you have to travel further out to get lesser competition. I know it sounds odd, but when you're trying to develop a team, confidence is important. So always want to qualify that event so that you have a shot at winning, but you don't want to go 3 and out. You want to at least get one good win in there, so that they can learn something. Because you win by losing, you win by winning. So finding the right one based on strength. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. So now registering for an event, and we touched on this in the last section, but you know, you're going to create a profile, whether it be on Got Soccer or Sync Sports. Hopefully, in a lot of instances, someone in your club is going to push you in the right direction. Maybe you get to sit down with another manager for another team for half an hour, and they just kind of show you the ropes really quick. But if not, don't worry. Both these sites and Sync and Got Soccer have great support videos to help you get started. But I really feel most of it's pretty intuitive, and you're going to get in there and click around and be good to go. But register for an event, register early, register accurately and correctly.
You got to make sure that you use the right mobile phone number and email.
Yep.
Number one mistake we see every single tournament where a manager has put in their contact information for the coach as if the coach was my number and my email address.
Yeah.
Why? It's simple. Like that's the information as the tournaments are going to use to contact you in case there's something very important. They're not going to just contact you to say hi. They're going to be contacting you because there's a field change or something. And if you're available, we're hitting every single contact number in there. And if it's not the coach, then you could miss your time. You could miss your field. You could have to forfeit a game. You could lose a championship. So
getting accepted, highly correlated with registering. You register early, you getting accepted should not be a huge issue. Now, the one thing you might have to pay attention to are payment deadlines. We always just kind of stand by paying as soon as you can. If you register for an event the 1st of August, but this event's not November, but you get all your funds secured by mid-August, go ahead and pay for the event. Honestly, most events have early discounts or, at a minimum, maybe a late penalty. Checking your team ahead of time. As soon as you register and you get all of your documents put together from your registrar, go ahead and start the check-in process for that event. That is if you opt to do online check-in. If you're doing in-person check-in, figure out where in-person check-in is. Figure out what time it is. Don't wait until Monday, the week of, and the event's on Friday, and you're traveling 5 hours, and then you're like, oh wow, check-ins from 6 p.m. to 7:30 Friday night. I'm not going to be able to make it. And lastly, communicate with your directors. You don't need to over communicate, but if you have questions, ask as soon as you can, as soon as you know about it. Most of the outside of event requests, in many instances, are handled on a first come, first served basis. The last thing you want to do is get your schedule and then realize, oh crud, we're not available at this time. Because if it's not an internal conflict, who knows that the director is going to be able to alleviate. So, John, don't know if you have anything else to add there.
Just real brief, communicating with tournament directors, always when you communicate, reiterate your team name, which is usually like your club name, your age group, and like what gender, boys or girls. And just
Absolutely.
Always do that, because we get emails or texts all the time like, hey, can I get moved to field 3? And we're like, okay, well, now I've got 2 more emails that I've got to get through, which is asking you who you are, what team you are, and what division you're in, and then wait for you to get back. So include that information. And secondly, keep your ask down to a minimum of 1 to 2 sentences. We don't need backstories. We don't need 3 paragraphs of why you're asking this question. Just give me the details of what you're asking for. And as tournament directors just understand they're always busy. So if you got 200 teams in an event, you've got 200 managers and 200 coaches and 5,000 parents. So be patient. We do read everything we get, and we do take it serious, and we do believe it's important. But we may be running around if it's tournament weekend. So we'll get back to it as we can. All right, moving on. We got Finally, we made it to tournament weekend.
We're here.
Yay!
We have
I'm gonna dive
arrived.
right on this because tournament weekend is like, man, as a manager, you better be excited. You better be ready. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
you're the one showing up first and the last to leave. And it all kind of, you know, we have right here at the top the team binder. So in the guide, I have a link to like the super uber binder. You can nerd out on that kind of stuff if you want to. It doesn't have to be the binder you found at the end of your kid's school season in the trash. You could use that, but why not get the ultimate binder? So a good binder, it's going to have all the paperwork in it, but if you're a super manager, you know, you might have a few extra zip ties, some extra lamination packets, some extra sheet protectors. Nothing feels better than helping out another manager that doesn't have something that you're like, oh, let me check my binder. I've got something like that, and you can help out, you know, somebody because it'll pay off in the end.
Big time.
You'll be lugging around the binder. In terms of that, and games as well. Um, every game's different, or every tournament's different in how they do their check-in before each game. Some do check-in, some don't. For, you know, for like when your team shows up and the referees come out and they're like, oh, I need player cards or I need rosters. By having that binder available, you'll have what you need no matter what, as long as you've got your waivers, your cards, and your roster.
Player cards. Big part of the binder. Most important part of the event. You know, that and the event roster. Have your player cards either ringed or zip tied, preferably on a ring that you can pop open and close and remove and add players as needed. So those player cards need to be cut, they need to be laminated, they need to be alphabetized and put on that ring. You know, the least work for the referee while they're checking in that team, the better. And second, have extra. You know, have a second copy of everything.
Always.
The player cards get lost. I think it's a good time now to kind of just bring up the digital copies, John. You're going to have rosters, medical waivers, player cards, etc. Upload everything to your computer, put it in PDF. So those medical waivers are going to be physically signed. Upload them if you can. You know, there's apps on your phone. CamScan is one of them. You can just, you know, scan them from your printer if you have a printer. But have all of those files, and you know that includes your roster, your medical waivers, your player cards. Have them handy. Have them, you know, to where you're able to pull them up from your phone if you need them. You never know, you know.
Yeah.
So
having a digital version is it's super important. I like to keep that kind of stuff on either like a Dropbox account or like a Google Drive, somewhere where it's in the
yeah,
cloud.
exactly.
If I run out of power with my phone, you know, and I only have them on my phone, then I'm kind of screwed. But if they're in the cloud,
There you go.
you know, you could go to the business center at the hotel, or you could go down to Office Depot, someplace like that, access your account, pull up your three important files, and get them printed out pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, delegating. I think you're great here. You know, talking about this, John. So I'm gonna let you.
Yeah, delegating. So this sort of goes back to knowing your limitations. If you're one of those super uber volunteer manager types that can do it all, then by all means do it. Don't hold
For sure.
yourself back. However, most of us have, you know, we all have a family. That's why we're there. We got a kid, and we might have a second or a third job. But you still want to be able to be the manager and help out. So you can't do it all. So knowing when to ask for help is critically important. You have a full team of grown adults that are there for their children, and I guarantee you they would love to help in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just one other person. Um, you know, get to know them when you're at practices. When it comes to tournament weekend, delegating the things that you're most commonly going to need. So if you're paying attention to the weather, we'll talk about that. If it's hot out, you know, delegate someone to bring a team tent, like a 10 by 10 pop-up. They're a little heavy, so you know you don't want to be the person always lugging that around. But with another, delegating that to maybe a handful of parents. So you take it these 2 tournaments, and you take it the next 2, and you can finish it out. You can split all that stuff up that you might need on the bench for the kids. That's going to help them in any way they can, because all that extra stuff that you provide is a little bit of an advantage that you can do for your team to help them. So if it's cold weather, have all the parents bring an extra blanket so that when they're on the sidelines or not in the game, they're staying warm.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you can, bring a cooler with ice, and maybe some drinks, but ice in general. So if there's, if someone gets an injury or something, and you can't, you don't have the time to get them to a trainer, at least you can start icing up right away. You can use the ice to help cool down when it's 90 something degrees out. So all that stuff is things that not just you, but you and the rest of your parents can help provide your team a little bit more of an advantage.
Yeah.
And delegate that. So.
Delegation. All right. So during the weekend, you're going to need to communicate. We were talking last week, and John said one of the things that he used to like to do was Thursday before the event. That's when you kind of know everything is set. Schedules are really not going to get changed unless you have a team drop. The weather is not going to change all that much, but it probably will, right? But John, you said you used to send a weekend 101 email, right, or something like that.
Yeah. So whatever app or means of communicating with your team, usually about that Thursday before, I put all the details into one email, and I would send it all out. So here's day 1, game 1, game 2. Here's if you're doing a team hotel stay, like here's the address for that. Just
exactly.
put it all in one thing, all in one correspondence, so that if you're traveling, everyone just needs to pull up that one. Hopefully, it cuts down on the number of calls or texts you might get while you're traveling. I'd be lying if I said it 100% did. I don't know how many times I would send out that email, and literally an hour later, I get a call saying, "What time is our first game?" So
yeah, always going to happen.
Comes with the territory, but at least you can know you did your part. And just to answer those people's things, you could pull up that one email and say, "Oh yeah, here's the information," and then check your email.
But during the weekend, you're going to have to communicate on the fly. And this goes hand in hand with what we were talking about earlier, to where email is not going to be the most optimal form of communication. So whatever you're using, whatever it is, make sure that everybody's getting those communications. The last thing you want is, you get contacted by the event director that, hey, we're going from field 16 to 2. And then you let your whole team know, right, an hour before the event. 50 minutes before the event, you get a call from, Johnny's dad. And he's like, hey, we're down here at field 16. We just set the tent up and everything. Where are you guys at? So that might happen. So, having that communication channel during the weekend is truly just, very, very important.
So these next 2 bullet points, we talk about sideline behavior and red cards and reporting incidents. They all kind of sort of tie in together. As the manager, it's just important to kind of know what's expected in the sideline behavior. Every good club, and if all clubs are great, but if your club does not have a parent-player sort of behavior policy that they have to sign at the beginning of the season, they should have it.
Yes.
This allows the club to sort of enforce some discipline if parents are going out and embarrassing themselves, embarrassing the team, and therefore embarrassing the club. If they're getting out there and absolutely losing their mind, screaming at refs, using foul language, just breaking the rules in general of a tournament, it's not really your job to say, "Hey, you need to settle down." That's not.
No,
These are adults. They should be treating, acting like adults. And my dog here is just so happy that I'm talking about soccer. So just know that if you get that kind of behavior, just be prepared to talk about it a little bit. You don't have to go and tattletale to everyone you know, like, I can't believe, Mr. Bob was doing
Yeah.
that. But, just pay attention to it. Red cards in general, um, that's sort of a hidden, if I could say one pro tip, it would be always card an extra person as an assistant. So what happens generally with a red card for a coach is they'll get thrown out of the game, and depending on the tournament, they may not be allowed to return. It may be one game they're suspended, or it may be the entire rest of the tournament. And if that's the case, your team still needs someone to finish out the rest of the tournament. So
Yeah.
who's that going to be? It can't just be like a parent that says, "Oh, I'll do it." It can, but you have to make that decision at the beginning of the season and get them carded through your club. So they'll have to go through a quick background check, and that's about it. So, and then they need to be available if that happens. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, and no, you as a manager, you're always going to be carded. So you're going to be the person, like John. I think that's a fantastic point. Is poll your team at the beginning of the season and see if somebody does want to step up and kind of be that person. So, and my last comment here before we get to battling the weather would be, this is one of those other kind of just great situations to. And we hope, with you reading this guide, it's just going to bring up so many questions that you get to then for and like go talk to your club about. So ask your club what to do here. Ask your club how they want to handle sideline behavior, and who your contact is. Because like you said, John, like that's not your job. Your job is not to put a grown up in their place. Your job is to report incidents at a maximum and help calm things down if you can.
So the last part on this one was just battling the weather, and that's just really talking about being heads up. Always have your weather app handy. Be looking 7 days out, 3 days out.
Yeah.
Be paying attention to any special reports from the tournament directors, and prepare accordingly. If it's going to be 30 something degrees out with a wind chill factor of 20. You probably be ready, and be ready for your team primarily, and then same
Absolutely.
in other directions. If we're in the South, so when it's 100% humidity and in the upper 90s, it's brutal out there. So all the shade and water and ice you can buy is be ready. Just be ready.
Yep.
All right. Travel planning.
Yes.
So travel planning, yeah. This is one of those things that is just like ripe for delegation.
Without a doubt.
As the team manager, again, if you want to be like the perfect team manager, you might do all this yourself. I will say that over time, it will be a bit of a grind. It's easy when you're just taking care of you and your family, but when you're trying to do that for 10 or 15 other families, it gets old really quick. So my advice, you might look more into the lodging as part of like one of your responsibilities. Just because a lot of those lodging options you can find on tournament websites. Snap and a lot of the events we run, we try and coordinate maybe with some of the local hotels to get favorable rates, or we're working with the local municipality, the Tourist Development Council or the CVB, and they can negotiate team blocks or not team, but tournament blocks, 50 some rooms or something like that at a special rate. They're locked in just for the people in the tournament. So you as the manager would know that because you're using the website to sign up and things like that. You might also, if you are going to be the person kind of leading that, look into finding hotels that offer favorable cancellation policies, or
yes.
You might also try and stay at only one type of or one brand of hotel, so you can take advantage of points you might earn over time, so you can get that stay free or something like that if you accrue enough points. So team meals, those are again, that's something that as your team gets older, your 17, 18-year-olds probably don't need a halftime snack. Maybe they do. Delegate that. That's something usually you kind of learn in rec league soccer, where you'll split up the different games conversations amongst parents to bring something. But when it comes to travel and you're talking serious soccer development, the coach should be hammering on the kids about eating proper nutrition, getting the right fuel in their bodies before, during, and after games. Um, Team meals is kind of a different beast. That's like,
It is.
you really got to consider how much time you're willing to spend on team meals. It's a great way to hang back, let the kids bond, have a beer with the parents, and unwind a little bit, share notes about the day's performance.
In most instances, these team meals are going to be your early evening dinner like meals. Coordinate with restaurants. Don't show up. Call in advance. I know it's really fun going to a location and then just kind of letting the spontaneity hit, and it's just like, oh, you know what, we're gonna go these tonight, or we're gonna go to Olive Garden, with the entire team. If you really want it to be a worthwhile experience, give that restaurant a call on Thursday or Wednesday the week of. They may even work out a special menu for you to kind of eliminate a lot of those hiccups that big parties, kind of bring. Um, and then, we'll just kind of segue here to team activities. Let the meal be the activity, maybe the beach, maybe a movie or bowling if it's hot, something inside. But these are just all items that you can just kind of add to the list of maybes during the weekend.
And delegate.
Delegate. Yeah.
Okay, so after an event. So the most common mistake after a game is forgetting your cards. And when I say forgetting your cards, that's when your team shows up to play another team at the field. Usually, excuse me, the referee will ask for each team's player cards. They hold on to them for the game. This is in case they have to throw a red card on somebody and kick them out, that they will pull that player's card, write a report, and go turn it into the tournament director. So aside from the red card thing we already talked about, it's pretty common to, give your cards at the beginning of the game. You have an amazing game, and you're so excited, you just leave the field with your player, and you're like, oh, crud, I left my cards. I'd say every tournament we have at least one set of cards that are just like, hey, someone left these on the bench.
At least.
Yeah,
at least.
So next thing after an event, if you get into using guest players, we could have a whole nother webinar on guest players. But if your club's down a player, or you're going into, like, say, a larger tournament where you need you're trying to put together more of an all-star team where your coach wants to get one good player from this club and another from there. Everyone comes together and says, yeah, that's great. You'll get a guest player, and that usually comes with a player card, and you will have to provide them a uniform to use just for that weekend. So pretty common to, at the end of an event, to forget about that person was actually a guest player because they were so awesome in the tournament, and you'll give them their player card back, and you'll forget to grab the sweaty, nasty, stinky uniform. So, but don't forget that. And then lastly, feedback. If no matter what, if you enjoyed the experience of the tournament, if you felt there was so many things that it was lacking, whatever the case may be, don't just sit on it and stew and say, I'm never going to come back to that tournament again, or I can't believe they did things this way. It would have been so much easier if they would have done it that way. Or, who knows? Maybe you thought that every single referee you had at the tournament was just unbelievably amazing. We want to hear that, and as a manager, you can pass that information on. It'll be greatly valued, no matter how good or bad it is. Just speaking from Snap Soccer's point of view, we want that information so we can make our stuff better.
Big time. And when you do provide feedback, be as specific as possible, whether it's good or bad. If it's good, be specific so we make sure to keep doing that thing the way we're doing it, or maybe even do it better. If it's bad, be specific so we know what to fix. But and furthermore, if you are having an issue on Saturday at your first game, don't wait until Monday. Shoot that director an email, which can normally be found on the homepage of the event immediately. I guarantee you that director is going to get that email on Saturday or Sunday and respond to you. So,
Yeah. Lastly, end of season. So you made it to the end. Congratulations. Kudos to you. You're still walking. You're still talking, and you've made it this far. But I asked the question: does the season ever really end? Like it just goes on.
no, it doesn't.
If you're really
Maybe for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, if you're in a hot little team, like it never really stops. Like you're gonna. So in a typical season, you'll go from like say most here in the States, we go school year as the start. So around August will be the start of the season for fall, ends in roughly December. You'll have like maybe a month in January, maybe part of February, and then it picks up again in the spring. Obviously, that's different everywhere. Whoever's watching this, but roughly you usually get about 2, maybe 3 seasons of soccer mixed in throughout a year. But when you finally get to the end, what are you as the manager supposed to do? Well, you're starting to look at tryouts for next season. As the manager, it's different for every club, but I would say that it's probably a good idea to be there at the tryouts. Why? Because you as the manager have the experience of the team and traveling with them, and there might be several new faces out there. And you'll know them when you see them because they're not your normal parents you see every day at practice or every week at practice.
Absolutely.
So find those new parents and help out the club a little bit and go talk with them. Introduce yourself, say who you are, answer any questions they may have. Try not to over promise on anything. Always sort of say this is kind of dependent on the coach. And if it's a club question, always point them in the direction of whoever the club admin or director is. But if it's team specific, you're going to do your team a huge favor if the parent feels comfortable with you as the manager, especially if it's a hot shot player that would really, you need that one extra good defender, or you need that one extra good kid with a left foot. You can help out a lot on that. Camps and clinics. So that's another kind of big end of the season. So when you're in that gap, you're looking for other things that you might want to do. You're not just going to sit around and do nothing. You got to keep playing soccer. Usually the clubs will keep everyone informed, but you as the communicator want to push this out as well about camps, whether it's one they're running or one in the area. Most colleges that have a soccer program, whether it's a women's or a men's soccer program, offer some sort of summer camp or winter camp. The fun ones like my kid used to go to was like a stayover. They would stay for 4 or 5 days, sleep in a dorm, get the full college experience, and then train all day and have a lot of fun. And they always came back super pumped about new stuff they learned. Another off-season thing that we like to offer, I'm sure most other areas are the same, are small-sided events. So these are great for sort of mix and match. When I say mix and matching, that's sort of you don't have to do small-sided events through your club per se. If you want to put together a team of your child and their 5 best friends, it doesn't matter if they're the other 5 all play soccer or not. You can put them together and go out and have some fun.
Absolutely.
So, mixing and matching. And just a plug for Snap, we have the Southern Challenge 5v5. We have 2 of those in the summer, and we do another small-sided 5v5 in the winter. So both been very well attended, and lots of fun watching those kids play.
Definitely.
And lastly, retiring. So you made it to the end of the season, and for whatever the reason, maybe you just didn't like managing. So maybe you've got to move, maybe you've got a new job. Whatever the case may be, you don't have to feel bad about it. You just have to move on. And we congratulate you for your service. You heard it from us first if no one else says that to you, because you are greatly appreciated. But there's a right way and a wrong way to leave your position. Obviously, the right way is to let the club know, let the coach know as soon as you can. Don't wait till the day before tryouts and say, you know what, I don't want to be the manager anymore. In fact, a good protocol, I think we were talking last week, Zach, is to train up another parent. If there's an
Yeah.
event where you know you're going to be gone, and say you got to go to a wedding or some kind of family vacation mid-season, find someone else to take the old team binder and carry the communications forward for those few days while you're unavailable. And if it works out, maybe that's the right fit. If they're going to stick with the team in the following season, ask them if they can help be the manager for moving forward. Ultimately, if you can't find an assistant, you're really just going to have to work with the coach and the club. They're going to have to move on without you, and ultimately it comes down to them finding the right person.
A manager and an assistant manager throughout the season is going to be a big help. So that's something that you should maybe poll for at the beginning of the season when you're polling for the other things we had mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It may happen that your daughter or son may roll their ankle on training at Thursday, and you're no longer going during that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have somebody to hand the binder to, but don't feel like it's your responsibility though to find the new manager. I mean, that's my take, at least. Like you said, John, is if you can put the word out there and somebody seems interested, if your assistant manager seems interested, that's perfect.
Yeah.
But if not, that's on the club, that's on the coach, that's on the team itself. They'll find somebody. You've done your job.
Cool, man. Well, I think we're at the end of our time here.
See here.
At least of our presentation. We're just going to follow up.
Yeah.
This one here, contact Snap.
Yeah. So contact us. If you've made it this far through the video, we greatly appreciate that. If there's another manager in your club that you think could benefit from the guide, please share it with them. We want all the feedback we can get on this guide. Call me king of survey, call me whatever, but feedback makes everybody get better. It really does. John, any words?
No, that's it, man. I appreciate everyone's time. I just, follow up real quick with what Zach said. Leave us comments if there's a breakout session you'd like to see. We'd be happy to do that. We can just, I know this is sort of if you're still with us, thank you. This is probably a bit longer than you would have liked, or maybe you wish you had more. But let us know. Make it in the comments. You had our emails there. Send us an email. But that's it here from Snap. We appreciate everyone's time, and we will talk to you soon.